Snipers, you have to see what's happening to the cryptocurrency market today as we saw Bitcoin dump all the way down to 35,000 US dollars as we saw traditional markets open this morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And notice here on the 4-hour chart, because as you guys know, tuned into the Snipers channel, everything morphs from the 4-hour time frame into the daily time frame, and we can even apply that principle into the smaller time frames like the 1-minute chart, the 5-minute chart. And notice how we went exactly towards our level here at 38,000 US dollars. And we saw a wick come all the way down to 30,000. We were talking about seeing the low 30,000s yesterday and talking about that being a wick. I want to talk about whether or not this was the worst for Bitcoin and whether or not we are going to see upside potentially towards this weekly open at 46,500. And I want to also look at what's happening to altcoins, because notice here how we're getting more puzzle pieces on the table. And we look at the total cryptocurrency market cap chart. You can see here we are testing a major level right now at the 200-day moving average, but more importantly on the weekly chart we have home base here, the 20-week moving average, and we still have price action above the body. And I want to talk about whether or not this was a potential retest and a garden variety market movement in a bullish trend where we continue to see upside now that we've seen the worst of the potential downside. And we also will look at what's happening to traditional markets as we always do, but I want to talk about others' dominance, because Bitcoin dominance is starting to show strength for the first time, coming up to test this previous weekly open at 45% dominance, but we are in an extremely bearish trend way and below home base here at the 20-week moving average. I want to talk about why I'm still expecting downside here for Bitcoin and how to maneuver the cryptocurrency market during these volatile times, especially as Bitcoin has seen an over 20% drop here in the last few days. You guys are watching the Snipers channel. Remember to smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. First, I want to talk about what's happening to Bitcoin. Exactly as we talked about yesterday, we were most likely going to come down to test 38,000. I said that we were most likely going to see volume here, and that's why we have yet to see any 4-hour candles close below 38,000. And for those tuned into the Snipers channel, all of my levels are extremely important, and I will justify that by looking at the 1-minute chart. Notice how every time we reached a major level, it took a lot of volume to breach these levels. You can notice here we had this level at 38,000 drawn out. You can see it was until we came to 30,000 and 38,000 that we started to see the volume come in, because the bears know that this is a major level. And so that's really the schematics and the most basic fundamentals of trading. It's support and resistance levels. And so notice how we weren't able to maintain this area. And this morning when traditional markets opened here, right before at 9:30 a.m. where the bell rings, we saw a massive dump, and that took Bitcoin all the way down to 30,000 US dollars. We of course weren't expecting 30,000 exactly, but you can never predict the exact level. But I did talk about us seeing a wick down to the low 30,000s, and that's exactly what's happening now. So nothing is abnormal about what's happening to Bitcoin's price. It's exactly as we've been talking about. And so at this point, because we've yet to close any 4-hour candles here below 38,000 US dollars, where we know there's a lot of volume here, and when we look at some altcoins, they saw massive amounts of capital flow into them as we saw this dump today. And so MKR and Auto, some of the altcoins I've been talking about over the last few days, I've personally dollar cost averaged into these altcoins with this downtrend. Of course, for those in the Discord, I did send a swing trade out, and notice how right now with Bitcoin, we are still above 38,000, and it looks like we could have potentially have seen the worst of this downside, because the body of Bitcoin right now on this daily candle is still above the 200-day moving average, and that's sitting right at that $40,000 big even. So when I'm being the umpire and giving you a neutral perspective of this market, what I'm seeing here is if we're able to maintain that 200-day moving average at 40,000 and we start to see 4-hour candles come to test 41,950, that's going to be the early signs of a recovery operation and a potential bottom and the start of a V-shaped recovery that we could potentially see, where Bitcoin will then have to go and fight towards the weekly open at 46,500. And if we can get towards that $46,500 level and break through that, there is a potential at that point that is a confirmation. We're going to come up to test 50,000 again. And of course, the real level we need to get to is 58,300, where we have the monthly open, the previous weekly open showing confluence. But the confirmation of that will be above 46,500 at the weekly open, because I don't think that we'd be above this weekly open just to get to the $49,700 level without seeing Bitcoin break back into this range between 49,700 and 58,300. So that's what we're watching for the upside. Of course, during these transitionary phases, for those that have tuned into the Sniper channel for the last 3 years, you want to be as cautious as possible when it comes to day trades. I personally was day trading Bitcoin up until we broke this $40,000 big even, and I decided to stop, and I'm glad I did, because I would have probably taken a long here at 38,000, and that wouldn't have turned out nice. But I knew that because we broke 40,000, 38,000 came onto the table, and then we knew that we had these major levels right below 38,000 that we were going to wick into, and that's exactly what happened. So we really only saw Bitcoin come down to the low 30s for an hour or so before seeing Bitcoin come back above 38,000, which we know is the major level. We even came back above 40,000 at one point already. So this could potentially be the bottom. The hourly volume looks really good. Remember, everything morphs from the smaller time frames into the larger time frames. The 4-hour candle has yet to close right now. We've yet to see a lot of buy volume on the 4-hour, but the hourly is looking good right now. So let's just keep those puzzle pieces in mind. And I would be more worried if the DXY was bullish right now, but we're going to talk about traditional markets later in this video. And because the DXY is showing weakness, I believe that Bitcoin could still continue to see sideways price action and potentially range in an area between the low 40,000s up to the high 50,000s. And so that is still on the table. This is the 200-day moving average. That's a major level, and we're maintaining the body of this candle right now. And it looks like we got the wick that we wanted. And so let's just keep this in mind. At some point or another, the market will always surprise us, right? And so this was certainly a surprise for a lot of us, and hopefully you guys weren't hurt too bad by this. Of course, for those in the Discord, you know I was watching altcoins like Maker, for example, which did very well after the rebound. I think it's back to the prices it was at prior to the dump already. And so when we look at what's happening here to Ethereum, and we'll talk about altcoins because there's a lot of puzzle pieces that are developing right now, Ethereum definitely saw a lot more volatility than we expected. I thought this monthly open at 2,800 would give us some sort of breathing room. Notice here that we did address this level here with this 4-hour candle finding resistance after breaking this level at this monthly open. So it's certainly an important level, but of course we know Ethereum being the more volatile asset, we came down all the way to the 1980 range below 2,000, which is astonishing, because if we look at the all-time high down to how far down we came, almost a 56% drop here in a week or so. And then notice here how we're already regaining up to 40% of the downside that we saw today. And so when you're starting to see these large wicks, in my opinion, you have to treat this like you would treat any other market. And I'm going to talk about how to maneuver this volatility in just a second, but just realize that Ethereum at this point is in between a very large channel of 1980 and 3,500, and we're most likely going to see ranging price action over the next few days here for the Ethereum to US dollar chart. The Ethereum to Bitcoin chart also in a very large range between 65,000 Satoshis and 85,000 Satoshis. And then let's look at altcoins. So this is how I deal with cryptocurrency market volatility in 2021. So you have to understand, you have to treat this like a business. So think back to March 2020 when we saw a large overall crash in the global markets that affected all assets. What was the best strategy during those 3 to 4 weeks where we saw extreme amounts of volatility? Well, it turned out to be that the best strategy was to invest in fundamentally sound companies and assets. And that's why we saw Bitcoin run up from the March 2020 highs down from 4,000 US dollars to 60,000 US dollars. That's why we saw Facebook and Microsoft and the tech sector do very well during that drop. And so we want to treat this the same way. When we see a large crash in the total cryptocurrency market, we need to look at the fundamentally sound altcoins, because those are the ones you want to start buying the dip with, because we know that the markets go up and down, and at some point or another, the altcoins are going to perform better than Bitcoin during altcoin season, which we are in, and I'm going to confirm that through this chart in just a second. So with the total cryptocurrency market cap chart coming down to test home base here at the 20-week moving average, and currently above that major level here at that $1.6 trillion area, we're currently sitting at 1.7 trillion, is a very positive thing when we look at the more macro time frame. And it looks like this is an opportunity to start dollar cost averaging into the fundamentally sound projects that you guys have been following or you've been excited about. I personally take this strategy, and this has done well for me over a decade already. And I love to invest in things that I use, right? So if you're using something, invest in those coins. If you're using Compound or Aave, right? Invest in those coins. If you're using Binance Smart Chain projects like PancakeSwap, right? Or Auto Farm, right? Invest in those projects. So invest in what you use. And I think that that's the real maneuver and strategy that we want to play here when we're seeing this type of volatility in the total cryptocurrency market cap, but we're still in a bullish trend because we're still above home base. So when you're in a bullish trend, it's never a bad idea to buy the dips, right? So I think that's the mindset I'd like to give you guys. And then I want to talk about what's happening here to Others Dominance. So Others Dominance is still showing strength above the monthly open and this major ascending support level, while Bitcoin Dominance came to see a garden variety retest of a major level, which was the previous weekly open at 45% dominance. That makes me assume we're most likely going to see continued upside for altcoins if we really start to see this rebound. And here's one reason I'm not too concerned about this dip. It's because the DXY is still showing weakness below the weekly open and previous weekly open, and we know that we're below home base here for the DXY. And so if we see the DXY range here for several days into several weeks, that could be a lot of breathing room for the cryptocurrency market not to see a massacre and not to see continued downside and to start ranging sideways, because we know the path of least resistance is always going to be sideways to a little bit higher. So let's monitor the DXY. If we start to come above the weekly open here, then I might have some concerns, but so far we're fighting with that 90 level, which is a big even, and the S&P 500 also still above the 50-day moving average. And when we look at home base here, you can see we're far and above the 20-week moving average. So not too concerned because of the puzzle pieces that are on the table from this dip. But look at what's happening to gold. We predicted the top of Bitcoin, we could say, based on this chart when we were covering this, when the price action was inside of this triangle, way and above the 50-day moving average. And sorry, this is the 3-day chart. And so you can see here, we were covering this and talking about this potentially coming below the 50-day moving average and that being an indicator of a top. And notice how we've seen this massive push down to almost come and retest the 2017 bottom here. Remember, this is an inverted chart that I'm showing you. So this was the 2017 bottom. We came to test this, and that is a very interesting puzzle piece in my opinion. And so we want to monitor this because this was an indicator of a top in the 2017 cycle to watch the gold to Bitcoin chart. And right now we are way in below the 50 and 100 period moving average. And if we get below that 65.76 level, that would bring us below the 2017 ratio, and that would be even more concerning. So let's just monitor this chart. But very cool for those tuned into the Cypress channel for us to have had covered this chart before this triangle broke and now look at what happened, right? So very interesting stuff. And for those that want to meet me, I am doing a meet and greet at Bitcoin Miami. I'm going to be attending this conference. Big shout out to Will and George for setting me up here for Bitcoin Miami. If you guys want to attend this conference, the link is in the description below. It's going to be one of the largest Bitcoin conferences in the world. Michael Saylor will be there. The founder of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, will be there. Tony Hawk will be there. A lot of my friends will be there. A lot of founders, Charles Hoskinson, Brock Pierce, Jeremy Gardner. And so if you guys want to attend this event, the link is in the description below. This isn't a paid promo. I'm going to be attending this event and doing a meet and greet dinner. So I'll give you guys more details of that soon, but check out the link in the description below if you guys want to go to Bitcoin Miami, June 4th to June 5th. It's going to be an amazing time, and a lot of us will be there. And to end the video, I want to give back to one of you guys. Principles by Ray Dalio, my favorite book on value investing. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. If you want to win this book, comment below and share this video. I'll pick a comment from our video yesterday to win this book, and we will move on from there. James King says, thanks for adding alts. I know you have had a lot of requests, but when you have time, can you cover ICP since it's pretty new, and Anchor? Thanks. I'll definitely start covering more alts. Of course, today was a crazy day, and so I wanted to make sure I gave you guys a very, very in-depth analysis of the downside and upside potential here for Bitcoin. So remember right now, as long as we're above this 200-day moving average, things are good. If not, then expect us to start testing the low $3,000 level. I don't think we'll see too much downside below 34,600, at least until tomorrow or next week, if we start to see downside, right? So I, as an umpire, believe that this was probably the worst of this, this move specifically. But for the macro, what we really want to watch now is what's the consolidation range that Bitcoin is going to choose. And that's when we come in and we start sweeping the dust after it settles as day traders. So that's what we wait for. And with that, thank you all for tuning in today. Until next time, snipers